Hi, this is Vicki with Crafting for Fun. Today I want to share with you how I made these really simple but very elegant cards using the very finely detailed rose garden die from Stampin' Up. You could try this technique with other deeply etched dies and see what kind of result you get. This is virtually the same card made in 3 different colorways and each with a different sentiment. And today we're going to be using actually a 4th sentiment. Let me show you the die. This is the Rose Garden die set, and you can see how many details there are in this die. So there are a couple of tricks to getting this result and to getting this die to pop out easily after you've cut it. So let me get set up and I'll show you exactly what you need to make today's card. To create today's card, you'll need the following items. You'll need a piece of cardstock for your base. This piece measures 8 1/2 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And I have scored it down the center at 4 1/2 inches so that when I fold it, I get a standard A2 size card. I'm using 2 pieces of vanilla color cardstock. Each piece measures 4 by 5 1/4. One is for the outside of my card and the other one is for the inside of my card as a liner, since this is a darker color base. And then I'm using a piece of double-sided adhesive sheet. This just happens to be the Wacky Tacky brand. It also measures 4 by 5 1/4, but let me show you here. This is what the Wacky Tacky product looks like. It comes in different sizes. These sheets just happen to be 5 1/2 by 9, so from each sheet I can get 2 cards. But actually I had no experience to this until I saw this at a garage sale recently and picked it up for very inexpensively, and I have loved it, so I'm going to be on the lookout to buy more of that. But I also have purchased this type of double-sided craft sheet made by Doris from my local craft store, and it appears to be the same kind of product. And I have used a product that's made by Sizzix that's also a double-sided sheet, adhesive sheet. I'm going to be using my Sizzix die brush. This comes with a little base, a little brush. It's got little fine bristles on the tip, and then a piece of sponge to lay your project on when you're trying to get those pieces out. I'll show you more about that in a moment. And I'm also going to be using my paper piercer. If you don't have that die brush, you could just simply work with a paper piercer. And I'm going to be using my Big Shot, but these are the items I'm going to use with my Big Shot. I'm going to be using my my magnetic platform, but you could use a multi-purpose platform which came with your die cutting machine if that's all that you have. And then I'm going to use the Precision Base Plate. This is a newer tool that's available from Sizzix. It's made specifically to help cut out those very finely detailed dies. And then with that Precision Base Plate, it replaces one of your clear plastic pads whenever you're cutting. So I only need one additional clear plastic pad. So I have my magnetic plate, and then on top of that I have my Precision Base Plate, and then I have one clear plastic cutting pad. So that's going to be my sandwich. So let me get set up and I'll show you exactly how I made this card. Okay, to begin today's card, I'm going to take my card base and I'm going to fold it in half along the score lines. And I want to use a bone folder to get a nice tight crease. So now I'm ready to just set that aside. And I'm going to bring in my 2 most important elements, which is one of my vanilla colored pieces and my double-sided adhesive sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the liner from my double-sided adhesive sheet, and I can just throw that liner away. And I'm going to adhere the adhesive sheet to my cardstock. So it just completely covers the back of my cardstock. Now, this is the top of my card piece. This is the bottom, the right side and the left side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my die and I'm going to orient it on my cardstock piece here so that it's the way I want it with my final card. I want to keep this negative space right here because that's going to be my area for stamping my sentiment. And I want to arrange my die so that it comes just about exactly to the bottom and just about exactly to the top, and also just about even with the edge. And I'm happy with that placement, and so I'm going to grab a top plate put that over all of my die pieces, and I'm going to run it through my Big Shot. Now I like to run it through in one direction and then back through at least one more time, and sometimes I do it a third time just for good measure to make sure I get really good cuts. So this is what I have. I'm going to remove my top plate, and you'll see that, oops, some of the pieces will just fall right out. The negative space will remove very easily from the card. Now, if it didn't cut off completely, like in this case, I just gently tear it. You can cut it with the scissors, and I might go back and trim it up if I think like I have a little tiny edge right there. I might just trim that off, but I'm going to set that aside. I do need to keep that. The piece that was on the left-hand side is just trash. I'm going to go ahead and throw that away. Now, I'm going to grab that Sizzix die brush. I'm just going to lay it down and put my die on top. Now, in most cases, if you brush very vigorously, you can get all of the small pieces to fall out of a die. In this case, they may not all come out because I'm using a much lighter hand. And I'm doing that because this already has adhesive on the back, and I don't want to do anything to separate my paper from the adhesive until I'm ready for that to happen. So I'm just going to roll over it a few times, and you can see that most of the pieces just knock right out. And whoops, I'm going to very gently separate my rows from the die. And you can see that some of the pieces that didn't knock right out are the ones closest to the very center, and those are the ones that are most tightly grouped and the hardest to kind of push out with those little holes. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out as many of these as I can. And I'm not really terribly concerned if they don't completely separate. You have to remember that there is adhesive on the back of this, and so it has a tendency to want to stay in place. But they will all come out when I remove the backing, and you'll see what I mean by that here in just a second. I just want to make sure that I'm giving them a good push so that they separate from the paper. And they are. They're separate from the paper. The paper is all cut. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over, and this gibberish that I've been talking will all make complete sense to you here in one moment. Let me go ahead and find a place where I can start removing the liner from the back of my rose. It's very, very, very thin, and it will take most of those extra pieces right with it. I turn it over and give it a quick check and make sure if there's anything that kind of got left behind. Make sure that it doesn't get stuck in the adhesive because it will want to stay. There's one piece. So my rose is completely cut out. And that's I'm going to move this so you can see how very beautiful and intricate that die cut is. So now I'm ready to bring back, I'm going to turn this over and set it aside for a moment. I'm going to bring this back, and oops, I'm going to orient my card the way that I want it. And then I'm going to take this piece. Now, you have to remember, you want to always double check yourself that they're going to fit together like a puzzle. So they'll fit like that. So I want to take this piece here and remove that adhesive liner, whoops, because it also has adhesive on it. And I want to apply it to my card so that I have about the same amount of space along the top, the bottom, and both sides. Just as if you're centering a card layer. Now, I find it easiest to go ahead and do my stamping while it's like this, because once I get that rose on there, I really don't like to stamp. So I have a stamp here that says, "Because I Love You, Mom," and this is from a Studio G set called Best Mom. And I'm just going to stamp my sentiment in this negative space. Okay. And now I'm going to take that rose, and that sentiment is a little bit crooked. Well, if I were truly going to send this card to someone, I would definitely redo that. But this is a sample, so I'm going ahead and I'm just putting that rose down, and I want to make sure it fits in there like a puzzle piece, and I can kind of move it around with my fingers and kind of press it down gently in place. Now I'm going to show you my secret weapon. My secret weapon is a piece of normal file folder that I've cut down to about 6 by 6. Now, I left it hinged so it opens up, and then I turned it over and I adhered just a 6 by 6 piece of cardstock to the back. So it's just a file folder with a little piece of cardstock glued on the back. I'm going to put my entire card in there. Now you have to remember that this kind of adhesive is pressure sensitive. So I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm going to grab my Big Shot again. Now for this, you'll want to use your multi-purpose platform that came with your machine. So let me grab that. So I'm going to open my multi-purpose platform to tab 1 and put it on my machine. I'm going to put down one clear acrylic cutting pad. I'm going to put my folder, which has my card already inside, and you may ask why I chose this folder rather than just using some cardstock to shim it. I like this folder because it has a nice smooth texture. If you happen to have any lines or creases on your folder, you're going to want to pick a different area. And so this way I get nice smooth pressure on the front and the back. Unlike your cutting plate, which will eventually have some lines in it from cutting, and you'll not want that against your finished product. So I'm going to put that in there, and I'm just going to roll it through. Now you're going to feel like, gee, that doesn't do anything at all. It's very, very light pressure, and I'm actually going to roll it back. It's a very, 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 it takes hardly any effort at all to roll this through. And you'll see that it smooths down all of those edges. So everything is very, very tightly adhered. Now all you need to do is take a second piece of paper and line your card and stamp an inside sentiment. So let me grab one with the sentiment stamp straight. There you go. So I hope you enjoyed today's technique. If you have any questions at all, please email me at craftingforfun@gmail.com, or you can check out my blog, craftingforfun.blogspot.com, for other craft ideas. Thank you.